In the beginning, when I came here, right in July and August, we had a very peculiar situation relating to militarization of the River Nile. River Nile, as you know, runs through the country, and there was a very volatile security situation all around it. And at that time, to ensure that the sustenance of all our troops and peacekeepers who are deployed on either side of the River Nile along the length and breadth of the river was a very big challenge. The security situation was quite volatile. We had ethnic clashes breaking out in various parts of the country. That was the immediate challenge that I faced when I came in July 22. Somehow, with God's grace and with the cooperation of all stakeholders, we were able to get that situation into control in 7 to 8 months of time. But largely, various challenges that face peacekeeping in a country like South Sudan include a very clear lack of early warning of what various armed factions are going to do. In the United Nations, unlike the military operations that we have back home in our national environment, there is nothing called military intelligence. We work through engagement, and we work through our own appreciation and work through open source information to derive early warning. Early warning should lead to early action. Sometimes this gap between early warning and early action, which results due to a number of factors, which include mindset of peacekeepers, which include mobility factors, which include restrictions imposed by host government, which include terrain, weather and climatic factors, a number of factors. The aim of the force in a UN mission context is to reduce this gap between early warning and early action. Mobility in this country is a serious challenge. There is only one blacktop road connecting cities in this country. Most of the places there are only earthen roads and non-blacktopped, and most of them are cut off during the wet season, which lasts for about 6 to 7 months. Floods are also a phenomenon here, which we have to cope with in some of the states. Then we also have, while we have a mandate that is very high on expectations, as it should be, when blue helmets or the United Nations peacekeepers are located in any conflict-prone country, the expectations will be high, and therefore mandates reflect these high expectations. However, because of the practicality of budgeting constraints, we have huge mandate to budget gaps, because of which there is always a fight for better resources, and resource management and ensuring that the available resources are used optimally and efficiently becomes a very, very serious challenge, as well as a leadership function. Humanitarian assistance needs are at an all-time high, and the challenge is the dwindling funds available for the same, with there being so many conflict zones in the world and the attention of the world community being diverted to various other areas, and therefore there is a dwindling of humanitarian resources, and that comes at a time when the need for such assistance is increasing. I think the best people to answer this question would be the population of South Sudan. However, let me give you my perspective on an answer to this question. Yes, how effective we have been in mandate delivery is something that should be assessed by everybody who believes in peace, so that we can fine-tune our responses to better results. Largely speaking, I would say the fact that the country has not relapsed into civil war or a national level violence, or that the national level ceasefire has held from 2018 till date, is a testimony to the reasonable success of our mandate delivery functions. We have also ensured a focus on prevention rather than reaction, which implies that we should expand our footprint in terms of being present in more locations, both on a permanent basis as well as in patrols. And it also implies we improve our early warning. It also implies that we have greater engagement with various stakeholders and put the national organized forces in the forefront in preventing conflicts. And it also implies that we have a mindset change in our peacekeepers, which I think to a large extent is a continuous process, but I think we are much better off now than we were a few years ago. And we have also had an impact in terms of ensuring that humanitarian aid is reaching all its intended locations on time and without any security challenges. the country is in the tipping point of a large number of, in terms of large number of aspects that affect its security. First and foremost, we have elections around the corner. We expect a slight spurt, or maybe a more than slight spurt, in violence before the elections, during the elections and after the elections, for which we have to be prepared. We have the Sudanese war, which has got its economic impact and the humanitarian impact. Those effects are also reaching a crescendo at this time on South Sudan. South Sudan is set to face the worst ever floods in 120 years in the period between October to December 2024. All these factors put together, as well as the culture, the prevalent subnational violence environment, we have tremendous challenges in the next 6 months and in the next 1 year period. In this year, what are our plans to face the challenges that I mentioned? First and foremost, as a mission, we want to enhance our footprint and enhance our reach to various parts of this country. This country is a large country, which is almost twice the size of Madhya Pradesh if you want to compare to an Indian state, or twice the size of Germany if you want to have a global understanding of this size. However, its population is quite less, at only about 12 million. Now, it is impossible for a force, even though ours is a very large force and we are perhaps the largest mission, United Nations peacekeeping mission on date, but notwithstanding that, it is not possible to reach all nooks and corners of the country. So we are aiming to appreciate hotspots as accurately as we can and enhance our reach to all possible hotspots for physical and sexual violence in the coming year. We are also upgrading our engagement with stakeholders, particularly the government organized forces, in terms of getting into touch with local leaders. We are always communicating with them and ensuring that misperceptions and conflict scenarios are averted before they manifest. We have also designated this year as a year where we will address the conflict-related sexual violence in a very focused way as a mission. We are also focusing a lot on ensuring freedom of movement along the River Nile, along all the roads and tracks of this country, and also in the aerial domain. This is something that we are working closely with the government, having numerous engagements almost weekly to ensure that we move where we want to and deploy where we want to as efficiently as possible. We have to continue our assistance to humanitarian partners. We have to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches more needy people and more efficiently and in a timely manner in the year to come. While doing all this, we have to focus on security sector reform, which is the part of the UNMISS force responsibility, amongst other sections of the mission, to ensure the implementation of the peace agreement. Yeah, very, very different. At the same time, the diverse experience that one has been privileged to have in the Indian Army over 4 decades has definitely made me more fit for purpose in this role. But then there are very significant differences. I can state a few of them. First of all, while in the Indian Army you are used to diverse environments, we are a country of such great diversity. But then the diversity that you see in a United Nations mission of the kind we have in South Sudan is something that's far more immense and varied. You got almost 67 countries as on date represented in the force, and more than about 80 countries represented in the mission, and then we have a host country with whom we have to work in close coordination. So the diversity of the job that I perform, the diversity of the people that we work with, their different social and military ethos, different cultural values, and different approaches to doing the same thing, in the sense different approaches to implementation of orders. All this together presents a potpourri of challenges which are quite different from what you find seen in the national militaries. My role here, you can argue that it is, say, the same nowadays in any leadership role in any country, but here it is more of a mix of political, diplomatic and a military role. We have primacy of the political process, which is the foundational rule for any UN mission of this kind. So working within that political strategy, contouring your military operations is a challenge that is slightly different from that of the national environment. While in the national environment, we are absolutely focused on ensuring the territorial integrity of the country. Here our focus is protection of civilians caught in conflict. That's our priority, and ensuring humanitarian assistance to the needy and providing a secure environment for ensuring the same. That becomes our priority. You're not working in your country where you have the complete support of the host government, that's your own government, as well as the population. Here we are working in an absolutely different country, a host government, which has its own environment, which has its own populational dynamics, which has its own notions of sovereignty, which we cannot offend. Therefore, we work within the sensitivity of the sensitivities and acceptance and consent to the host government. And we also have to ensure that the UN principles are held uppermost in our actions. The public support that we normally take for granted in national environment sometimes has to be earned here by actions that are keeping with United Nations policies and principles, and with ensuring robust meeting of their expectations. This is a very varied environment to what you will find in national militaries, but it is your experience in the national militaries that prepares you to meet these differences that we see in a UN environment. In an era where everybody is doubting the efficacy of United Nations peacekeeping missions as we know them, I can say that United Nations mission in South Sudan can be a beacon which reinforces the hope in this tool at the hands of the international community to enforce international peace. We follow the United Nations principles steadfastly, and this mission, in my hope, will answer a lot of criticism that is attributed towards the efficacy of United Nations peacekeeping. And this mission will perhaps set the tone for deciding on future models of peacekeeping which would be more effective to future challenges. UN peacekeeping may have suffered some setbacks in the past. There are always shortcomings which we have to address continuously, but it has got certain advantages which are the primary one of which is utmost credibility, as an instrument where political impartiality is ensured, and an instrument which ensures all global values are followed to the hilt. So this instrument that is there in the hands of the international community is here to stay. We have to continuously refine it and shape it.